Welcome to The8ter. We're pretending like there's not a delay.
Yeah. Be like, welcome.
Okay, so, Keenan.
All right. So today in this episode, we have Lianne, who is in A Little Night Music with Lily. And then we have my mom, Renee. And of course, Lily. And me.
Yeah, so I know Lianne from A Little Night Music, and then Keenan's mom is just Keenan's mom. So I know you guys both grew up in the Bay Area together. What kind of highlights would you like to share, and also what kind of training, shows, and stuff did you do while you were there, or while you were younger? Yeah.
Renee, I think the first thing we did together was Stars 2000. Am I right?
You are. I think it was Anything Goes.
Yes, it was. We did Anything Goes. The first time we worked together. Stars 2000 was the name of a fabulous musical theater, like summer theater camp that was geared towards teens. Called 2000 because we were doing this in the early 1990s, when being a star of the 2000s was something you looked ahead to. Funny that, ha ha ha. Anyway,
and they've been producing since. I mean, they just shut down like a few years ago, so they went far beyond the 2000s.
They did, yes. Diane Cameron and Ellen Smith. Thank you. Yes, Diane Cameron and Ellen Smith went far beyond what they planned to do with Stars 2000. But that was the first time we met, was at that summer theater camp, and then I think about 3 years later, we came together at the same ballet studio, right?
That's right. We were at the ballet school together, and I think a lot of the
Lorene
reason why I
Fender's
was
the ballet
there
school
was
in Walnut Creek.
Yeah.
So both these things were in Walnut Creek, Bay Area, actually, to be specific. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, but I think a lot of the reason I went to the ballet school was because of you, because I was at another dance school that was a competitive dance school, and it didn't work schedule wise to do theater. So I met you, and I was like, okay, well, she's doing ballet and theater, so where is she? Who's supporting that? So thank you. And it was the start of many places I followed you from there.
I forgot that. That's right. Yes, because for a while I was also in a program that when they do pre-professional dance, it makes sense because it is an athletic environment. It's an athletic expectation of dancers. And so if you are primarily doing, especially ballet, it's a 30-hour-a-week expectation after high school. And that worked for me for a while, and it worked for Renee for a while. We both went to different schools that had that expectation of pre-professional dance. And it was true, but then I didn't just want to do theater in the summer. I wanted to do it as much as possible. And I did have to have the school that I was at, that stopped fitting me so well, did have to have a sit down and say, we can't allow you to take the advanced classes anymore because we need a commitment of you taking at least 2 classes every day. And I couldn't do Gypsy and The Secret Garden and all these wonderful musicals if I was also doing 30 hours of ballet. So that's right. I'd already gone through that experience of leaving a place because it didn't fit, even though I loved the classes, it truly didn't fit anymore. And that's right. And then Lorene Fender's the ballet school. She went, you love theater and you love
she
dance.
was so supportive and fostered our musical theater. So thanks for doing all that research for me. I didn't have to do it. I just followed. And then we did 110 in the Shade, I think, was our next show we did together with DLOC. So Diablo Light Opera Company was a adult community theater company that we both worked for a lot. And Lianne, what was that role you were in that show that you played?
Her name was Snooki. It's a musical based on the play The Rainmaker. And actually, I saw it in New York after I moved here with Audra McDonald in the lead. And I don't remember who played Snooki on the Broadway production I saw. I believe it was Leslie Ann Warren that did the role of Snooki in the original production. And she's quite renowned. But yes, Snooki, and you were one of the lead dancers.
Yeah. Little Red Hat, right? Wasn't that your song?
Yes, it's sort of a novelty song. Cute. So I already was being funny, Lily. I was already not keeping my act together.
we made that Melisande number into like a dance piece, which it's normally not a dance piece. So that was really fun. I got to do that. And then, do you remember this, Lianne? You had to leave to go do your junior miss pageant. And I covered for you. It was like a week you were gone.
Yes.
And I covered Snooki. And then once again, I was like, what is this thing that Lianne's doing? And so I ended up doing the junior miss competition the year after you.
I love this. Yes, America's Junior Miss. I was convinced to do this.
Are we really going to admit this, Lianne?
Okay, but hold on. I actually have a good story about this. This is a total sidebar, but I was already a bit of a rebel. I always had a little bit of an activist in me. I still do, and I didn't like the idea. I was like, I'm not going to spend the money on gowns and things to do, because it was a pageant, but their whole point was it was mostly a scholarship pageant. So they wanted to give accolades to women who were excelling academically, as well as in the arts, as well as contributing to the community. Mm-hmm. But yes, if you had a gown while you were singing, that'd be great too. And I was like, I'm not doing it. I'm not going to buy a gown. And then somebody from the community theater let me borrow their daughter's dresses because I was so just committed to. And then when I sang my song, I borrowed costumes from the production of A Christmas Carol, and I was determined to sing my song in rags. Wow. At 16, what was I doing? Anyway, I actually won like third runner up or something crazy like that. I don't know.
Yeah. It was a great program, and
it was a great program.
I met actually my college roommate.
It current after me.
Yeah, I met my college roommate Courtney Glass there. We were paired up at the competition, and then we ended up both getting into NYU, and then we were roommates in New York together. So this trajectory was great for me.
It was a very special week. I forget my mentality about gowns, but I met some wonderful women that worked really, really hard and in many aspects of community and arts and academia and moving forward with research. Just really, really incredible. We both did. You met your roommate. That's wonderful.
Yeah. To answer your question, Lily, though, Lianne and I were part of a generation here in the East Bay of San Francisco. It's about 45 minutes from the city. That there's just a really vibrant theater community that exists here. And we were very lucky to grow up at a time when it was really happening, and there was a lot of companies that were successful and thriving, and there was actually money in theater back then in the 90s, and there were wonderful training programs. So I always look back on that time, Lianne, I'm sure you do too, like I do. Very fondly and very grateful that we had all of that in our little 10-mile radius.
Yes, agreed. It was a very special time, and there are so a lot of the programs we just mentioned don't exist anymore. I mean, Lorene Fender's The Ballet School is still there, but Stars 2000 is done. The America's Junior Miss is done. I did study at Young Rep, which is a program through Center Rep in Walnut Creek. Mm-hmm. That still does exist. Mm-hmm. And that was a very, very special acting training program that I did the last 2 years of high school there. And the teachers there, Carrie Shawn and Jeff Draper, have become my mentors. And I still keep in touch with them. But Walnut Creek is a very special place. There's many wonderful actors all over the country from the 90s in the Bay Area that can say they have not just great teachers, but they have mentors for life. It was a special decade of training that was happening in the 90s in Walnut Creek.
And like you said, a lot of people came out of that generation. I mean, we could sit here and name them, but there's a lot of people that are still involved in some way, making their living doing the arts. So
yes.
Something was in the water back then.
It was in the water. And yeah, we were encouraged for it to be a safe space. I think is a word that's used a lot now. I more want to say a place where you could say yes and try things, and there wasn't a gradation of better and best. It was just yes, you did that today. You did something today that you didn't do yesterday. How amazing is that for you? And it was very real. It was very real to celebrate that, to celebrate something you discovered as an actor, as a dancer today, and acknowledging that tomorrow might be a harder day for that for that acting scene, for that note, for that pirouette, but look at what you found yesterday and you'll find it again. It's very healthy, very, very healthy environment in
very
dance.
multi-generational. I really loved the opportunity we had to work with so many people older than us, like Rhoda Klissner and Stu and the Egans and Gloria Trombley. Like, I felt like we had so many great mentors and artists that we worked with. It wasn't just like children's theater and then adult theater. It was very collaborative, and the sense of community was really great back then.
It's a very, very good point. That community theater experience was very multi-generational. Thank you. That is special. And teen theater is wonderful too, but then when you are able to literally do rehearsals night after night alongside somebody
Seasoned,
it's special. Oh, that was a good time.
It was.
There's our reminiscing for you, Lily and Keenan. Thank you for witnessing.
Yeah. So you guys both pursued theater on different sides of the country. What were your guys' experiences like in both places? Who wants to start?
Well, I was only in New York for 6.5, 7 years. So I did the whole audition thing. I was in the union, but I hung up my hat pretty quick and came home, and then this one got in the way. So
yeah. Hi, I'm Problem.
Yeah.
Stop it.
My career ender right here. No, I'm just teasing. I love it.
It's funny. I think, Renee, you might have, correct me if I'm wrong, but basically the chapter of New York, I think, closed for you at the same age, different year, but I think the year that I closed my San Francisco chapter and entered New York was the same age, I think, where you exited New York. You know what I mean? So I chose.
I was in my mid-late 20s.
Yep. So I moved to New York at 25. And so I visited New York. I had gotten into NYU and Boston and Carnegie Mellon, when I was 17. And I had never even visited the East Coast. I'd never even been on a plane to the East Coast. And I had a wonderful high school counselor that said, it's not possible for you to make this decision about your life without ever stepping into Boston or New York. You can't do this. I just idolized New York. I mean, I wanted to be there since I was, your guys' age and younger. And I visited, and I remember I was there on the last day possible to give the answer to NYU. I was standing, I think, on West 4th Street. I'm not even kidding you. And with people that my high school counselor had paired me up to visit. And there I was, 17. And I stood there and I said, I can't believe I'm saying that. I had a wonderful couple of days visiting New York. I said, I am going to live here, but I'm not going to live here yet. And I actually put in the mailbox, I remember doing this on the street corner, and I put in the mailbox my turning down my acceptance letter. And I'm not saying everybody has their own path, but then I went to school. I went to school in San Francisco University, and I was working professionally while I was in college in San Francisco. And then I had a great, wonderful life, but I was like, I could do this for the rest of my life, and that'd be fabulous. But I think if I don't do an adventure now at 25, it might never happen. So I chose to come to the East Coast, basically. It's just so interesting, because I didn't have New York be my college life. I don't know why. It's kind of crazy that I didn't choose it, but whatever.
It all happens for a reason.
Yeah,
everyone has their path and their trajectory, and I think we all can look back on our choices and see pros and cons too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I came here at 25, and everything was new and exciting. It's a very, very fast-paced. Even though I lived in San Francisco for several years, New York is got so much going on. It was right for me. It's also very easy to like come on strong and hot, and then get very overwhelmed. And New York, it's very easy to get overwhelmed. I love it. I do have a very fast-paced tempo to myself. I have to figure out how to quiet myself down, and New York doesn't always offer that. I have to offer that to myself. It's a challenge. That's my very spiritual answer. Is it's a challenge. You can't get to some of the quiet places that you can get to in the East Bay Area as easily. They are here. They're absolutely here. But I've lived here now in New York for 18 years, and I now though also have places that feel like a small community. It takes a couple of years to make them, but I do. I have some haunts that where everybody knows my name, but it takes time to find it here. I think it might be easier to find it in the East Bay Area. Doesn't mean it's better. It just might be easier to come to you. But then also we grew up there, so what do we know? Maybe it's not easy for a stranger to find it. Anyway.
Yeah, hearing what you said about kind of knowing yourself and knowing how to calm yourself and finding your people. I think I moved there so young. I was 18. I just didn't know who I was yet, So I benefited from amazing training and really fun times spending my early 20s in New York City and living in the Village. But I often sometimes wonder, now as I'm older, yourself so much better. And I think I would have approached the business with much more calm and presence had I moved there later, that you don't have when you're 18. That sense.
Yeah.
So but it was really fun, and it was really fun I just wanted to be there, right away. In the moment, I only applied to NYU. It seems crazy now because these kids nowadays apply to like 25
everywhere,
schools.
Yeah.
I was such a strong-willed kid, and when I made my mind up for something, I put everything in it, and I only applied there, and thank God I got in. God. And I'm also the youngest of 4 kids, so I have a very adventurous, don't tell your grandma this, but I was just so ready to leave.
That's so stupid. Why would you only apply to NYU? Hey, you didn't get in.
It wasn't stupid.
She got into the no. If you have a goal place, she got into her goal.
Yeah.
So it was right. She focused. Training. She's like, eye on the target. Star Wars. Eye on target.
And I loved it.
Eye on target. Okay, anyway.
For me, it was so cool. Josh Walden. Lianne, do you remember there was that group from Cap 21 was what the musical theater program at NYU was called? Do you remember there was that group of graduates that came with Sarah Darnelli, Josh Walden, and they all came and performed at the Leisure Center when you may have already been at San Francisco, but I was still in high school. But anyway, that's how I heard about the program at NYU. And then I just thought it was so cool that when I was there at NYU, Josh Walden was my tap teacher, and then he would go perform in La Cage, up on Broadway that night. It was just, I loved to have it being in that scene right away.
Yes.
Cool. And I always, Lianne, you are a different type of performer. I am a fourth girl in the back, 5, 6, 7, 8, and I'm fine being that girl. I love playing that. But there's also, I think
best kicks and turns in town, kiddos. Don't you think otherwise?
I still have the best kicks and turns in town.
You do.
But I think the industry's changing. But back when Lianne and I were younger, dancers, they wanted them young. So I kind of had to get there.
You were right. Going. You were right. I actually remember you mentioned Rhoda Klintzner. She was very disappointed when she heard I wasn't going there, and she said, "You've got to go there young." And I think I already knew though that my trajectory was as an actress. And I think I did. I think I had more patience about it. And similar to you, I was able to get connections with people, but in San Francisco, because sometimes I would be the one local person in an all New York cast, So getting to be, a supporting lead with David Hess that you might know from Sweeney Todd and things, and getting to be with David Patrick Kelly. I played his daughter in a play at ACT, and the mistress to Dan Cooney's Evita. That was happening when I was 20 and 21. But you're right. It's because I felt like I got to know them as whether they were playing my father or whatever. And so that those connections were happening to me. And that was part of what helped me get to New York. Because I was like, I might not just get there as a student. I'm getting there as somebody's like, oh, you should meet Lianne. Even as confident as I was, you're right. I think also I want to be a really strong actress. And you're right. There's a maturity that helps build if you know you want to be a a dramatic actress, not just and I love musical comedy. Lily knows that. Hello, I'm Dora Bailey. But what if I want to do more than hello? There's the note. Sorry, it took a second. Hello. I want to do more than that. I knew that there was going to be some advice that was very loud. I'm sorry. Anyway,
It's okay. We're always here for it.
Okay.
Yep.
Anyway, yeah, it's a fun talk. San Francisco, New York, different times, but both have their special qualities.
Yeah. But yeah. Oh,
I think it's me again. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is specifically for you, Renee. Keenan told me that your whole family is actually signed together, as well as having, separate representation and everything. What is it like being in a family where everyone pursues the arts?
It's nuts. We haven't parked our car in our garage in years because we've had a green screen and lighting equipment set up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, I think so my husband, Keenan's dad, Brendan, he was in TV news before I met him. He was a producer and he was an on-camera talent. But he was much more from like a journalism standpoint, not really an actor standpoint. Mm-hmm. So he had already been represented by JE. JE's one of the top talent agencies they're like a boutique agency in San Francisco. Oh. And then I was with Marla Dell when I was younger. And then we both kind of, obviously my career ruiner here, Keenan, and his sister and his brother, Brendan and I both, we were out of the business, so we didn't have representation. Uh-huh. And then Keenan got looked at by JE when he was in Fun Home at 42nd Street Moon. And then when they interviewed us as Brendan and I and Keenan, they started asking questions, and it sort of came out that Brendan and I were also in the business. And then they were like, well, can we see your two other kids? And they're cute enough, right? So we all, 5 of us got signed. Yeah. And we actually book, because we're a smaller market, not LA and New York, we book a lot as a family. And we've done a few commercials. And I think post-COVID, it's become a thing. They would rather hire a real family, not only for the germ aspect, but you relate differently with the kid when it's your real kid. Mm-hmm. So we've had a lot of success as a little family of 5, or we'll pair off, like Brendan and Molly will do something, or Dominic and I will. So it's fun, but it's a lot of self-tapes.
Yeah. And Molly and Dominic, they, I don't think are going to really choose acting as their career path later on.
I mean, they're 10 and 8, they might.
Maybe, but right now, I mean, who doesn't want to go to school and be like, I'm in a commercial? Yeah. Or like, I'm on a billboard or something. Like,
they're enjoying it for now. We're not going to force them if they ever say they don't want to do it.
There are other likes and talents.
But as of right now, it's definitely Keenan's thing, and the rest of us are just kind of along for the ride.
I take the spotlight in the family.
It is really interesting to talk about that. Oh my goodness, Keenan.
Problem number 1.
It is really interesting to point that out, though, that this idea of self-tapes has been a part of their life for a couple of years, but it didn't enter my life till my late 30s. Like, honestly. So think about that. Like, my whole time even doing television, I sat in a hallway and walked into a room. Even for television, there was no such thing. Mm-hmm. Not until 2020. And I know 2020 doesn't seem, it's you think about how young you were prior to 2020, it's very different. But literally think if you have never done a self-tape till your late 30s. And now the industry is all that. It's a dramatic change. And I also can't imagine, that's the thing, is like, I don't know what the Bay Area is with that. I don't know what starting out in New York would be like that. I know what it is to show up in a hallway and chat with people and bump and even and to see a musical director on their way to something else, and even though you don't feel that great about what you had just happened in the room you went into, you see a musical director you haven't worked with in 4 years and they go, Lianne! And you get this big, wonderful hug because they remember a performance you did with them 4 years ago, and suddenly you're like, that 90 seconds doesn't matter. This matters. My 6 weeks with them matters. Like, I'm gonna cry. That's always been theater for me.
Mm-hmm.
And now
Yeah,
it's that
that's
wall.
gone now.
And-
That's been extended.
I'll have to get it closer.
And I know that you're accustomed with it, but it's still very new. If you think of how many theaters Renee and I mean, how many years Renee and I have done theater, and a hug in a hallway was a major part of an audition. Major.
Yeah.
And I
And that
got
community.
signed. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Lily.
I got signed in 2021, so I had every single audition that I've done with, my agent has all been self-tapes. It's obviously also because of where I'm located. But I've also kind of noticed that, like, I went from, I still do a lot of local theater, but I did a lot of more local theater when I was little, and I would go in, like, each season for the auditions and, like, see the same people, and now, like, I'm just always doing self-tapes, and it's just like, oh, another one goes off into the void.
Yeah,
But
Goes off into the void.
Just gotta, you gotta tape it and forget about it.
The ratio between how many self-tapes in total you do versus how many you actually book is a crazy difference.
Well, what do we say?
I won't
Yeah.
count them. I won't count them. I don't want to count them.
There's not really a number to them.
We say it's like 100 to 1.
Yeah.
Pretty bad odds.
Yeah. I've been signed for like 3 years, and I've done book 2 things. It was a reading and then Sound of Music. So, and also, being a kid, there's a lot less roles out there in general.
Right.
So,
Lianne, how much are you self-taping being in New York? Is it like more of a hybrid now, or primarily self-tape?
I mean, television is all self-tapes, and there's no callbacks. It's completely from self-tapes. I'll even get an adjustment via email, and go on set, and suddenly, there I am with George Russell giving him the what for on Gilded Age after. But for theater, almost every theater has the first round be self-tape. Almost every theater. Once in a while, and callbacks pretty much now in 2024 have been in person, and sometimes it might be 2 callbacks, and now so there's more. There's basically like a filtering that happens now with self-tapes. There's a handful of theaters that will have the first round, or maybe my first round is in person, but I think first round self-tape is totally standard.
That's the standard
now.
yeah, that's what I've
definitely.
experienced with stuff too.
I just thought of a crazy analogy. It's like when you take your hand and you put it through the sand, but your fingers are separated, so like it all falls through. That's what casting is like. You take a lot of people, and then it all filters out into one
grain of
I just thought about that.
Only one grain is left on your hand.
Only one grain, and you're
It's
that one
interesting.
grain.
I do love coming in and showing how we can relate, how I'm willing to play. I love when I come in for especially acting auditions. As a leading lady, like I have no idea where the window's going to be, where the piano's going to be, where the chair's going to be, and I love coming in and going, oh, that's where things are. Okay, and there can't be anything unexpected when I walk into my self-tape space. It takes away this sense of play. So even though they might be able to filter out who isn't what they envisioned for their acting roles, I do think they're losing out on learning who might have a sense of play that intrigues them. And I can't imagine self-taping as dancers. I haven't had to do that once. I'm that far removed. I'm much further removed from dancing now than I used to be. So I can't imagine. But in New York, it's a big thing for first rounds. They send you choreography and you have to self-tape it. And I kind
of get it for dance, because I remember so many auditions in New York. They would the first cut would be a double pirouette.
Oh.
So they basically were just typing on look and technique anyway. So you can tell that from a tape. So, I mean, for that first filter, I get it. But you're right. When it gets down to the end, it's like you have to feel that energy in the room. And see how someone takes a note or an adjustment.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think also like when you go in person, you do it once and that's what they see. And like when you're doing self-tapes, I'm at least a lot more self-critical. I'll do like a ton of takes and be like, okay, I want this like tiny thing to change. And I assume, I don't know, but like different casting directors, it's easier to be more hypercritical with those things when you can rewatch it than kind of seeing, just a performance and then taking it in general.
Yes, you're right. There's a clicking play as opposed to taking it in. That's a beautiful a beautiful observation, Lily. Beautiful. Yeah.
Also, with self-tapes, you can do it as many times as you want. Oh, that one is bad. Do it again. But with callbacks, you don't really have, I mean, unless you want to start over.
Mm-hmm.
But that's
I
not
really
it's
have
a more authentic representation of your talent and everything sometimes, because people can just redo and make things like so calculated and everything, and when you go in you can't, like you can have a mirror set up so you can see exactly what you're doing when you're doing a self-tape. Like, you don't have that in person.
But the best theater, Keenan, though, my friend, is it when somebody gets it right, or when they did something unexpected?
When they did something unexpected.
And it's very hard for us to trust and press send on that. But when we do something unexpected live in a callback room, it just is what it is. We walk out and go, maybe that was great. I don't know. And you have to, I don't know. I don't doubt that it's hard for all of us to send something that's unexpected, but it is what we remember when we're audience members, that, even if it's something that's happened 8 times that week, it came out of an unexpected moment in rehearsal. Yeah. That's what I think.
And these kids are, with all these self-tapes, Lianne, these kids are missing out on that immediate feel and reaction from the people behind the desk. They're not getting that.
Yes.
Oh, that is very true. That's a
very important learning process that they're it'll be interesting to see over time as a generation how they evolve.
You're right. Taking that in, it's very special. I actually just had that. It was a job I didn't book, but once I started, I sort of felt the whole room sort of like just sit up a little taller and be like, and I felt that where they're like, okay, let's take this in. It was like, let's stop sitting forward and concentrating. Let's take that in. And it was a beautiful thing to know there was something that I did that they were taking in that told me to take my time, to breathe. And I have no idea what people are doing when they press play, nor will I ever. Anyway, you're right. That's special. I just keep on telling you, like, it's the goosebumps. It's the goosebumps. Yeah.
I'll edit this bit.
This is for Lianne. You do a lot, different types of theater, singing and cabarets and all that stuff. What has been your favorite thing related to theater, that experience, and what was that like?
Well, I think I'll have to say I really love developing shows with my musical director, Ron Abel. It's really special. And I actually, this morning, when I was walking through Central Park, I was listening to the Barbra Streisand's audio biography, okay? And she was talking about songs that she did when she was a nightclub singer at Bonsoir at the age of 17. And she was talking about these ideas that she had about the songs, like The Soon It's Gonna Rain, when it wasn't in Fantastics, and just in songs, her ideas of songs standing alone, with the way that she wanted to start them and flip the lyric, and what note might grow because of a dynamic that she would feel about the subject. And as I was listening to this, I wore out those CDs, you two. The first Barbra Streisand album, the second Barbra Streisand album, literally called that. I love them. I wore them out. And when I heard them at a very young age, I think I love her voice. I always wanted to drop myself into a song having nothing to do with the musical and go, wait. What is my 3-minute story with this? And not just think about how I would sing it, but what might the piano do differently? What might come in? What beat might be different? when is there total silence when I'm singing? I've always thought about that. And so these 2 shows that I've done now, these 2 shows that have mostly been at nightclubs, but I'm starting to do them at theaters in this coming year too. To have a collaboration with Ron Abel is what I think I've been thinking about since I was a teen, listening to those albums, because she talks about it. So I was validated. These were ideas that she had, and she had a relationship with a musical director at 17, where they would work on these together. And it's really, I don't play piano, and I don't have the best music vocabulary. Yes, I studied a little bit of music, but I am an actress first, and I when I describe what I want to happen, I do these dance moves, and I don't quite use the right technical words about the note, but I know it's going to kind of go like that. And then you have a wonderful musical director like Ron Abel, and he understands what I'm saying, which is crazy. So it's a lot of work and a lot of hours to actually put together a 16-song show that every single song is a custom arrangement that he and I have created with a band. But it's really satisfying. And it's also a little bit of a dream sometimes to sit there, and then he'll tell me a story about when he was musical directing for Peter Allen. Look him up if you don't know who I'm talking about. And then he'll tell me a story about when he was playing that song or doing a custom arrangement for that song for Shirley Jones or for Helen Reddy. And I'm standing there going, and there he is now collaborating, working with me. It's really satisfying. It's a lot of work because I can't just show up and do it. I have to spend all this time to prepare for it, to do the homework, to come in and then pitch these ideas to somebody who is a seasoned genius. And I have to earn that right. But when we have a song, and when I sing the song, when I perform the song, and the whole audience and Ron Abel goes, "Yes, Queen!" Let me tell you. When he screams while he's playing and there's 200 people watching, "Yes, Queen!" I'm like, did it. I win. I got Ron Abel to yell that. It's wonderful.
When are you performing in the Bay Area again?
That's a very good question. I'm working very hard to bring my show, The Windmills of My Mind for Dusty Springfield, to the Bay Area. I think it's okay to say I'm working on bringing it to the The8ter in the fall of 2025.
Yay! Because he can't go to a nightclub, so
yeah. Actually, Fine Signs you can. I had some kids of other friends come because they serve food.
Okay.
Fine Signs at the Nico.
Great.
So last.
All right, cool.
Is it this year? Yeah, last year I brought Why Can't a Woman, which was all Broadway leading men's songs and sassy standards, to the Fine Signs at the Nico. So nightclub, like the old fashioned, like it's supper club is I guess the right word for them.
Okay, supper club.
All right.
But hopefully fall of 2025 we'll bring this show.
That's great. I love that the The8ter is they've been starting the last few years to branch out of just showing movies, and so that's great to hear you're coming.
Thank you. So
It's
that's my story.
I mean, you know
really,
it.
Really
We've
fun.
both been there as kids. Like, it's beautiful inside.
I know. So hopefully, thank you guys. Yeah. So creating is really wonderful. I mean, yes, I know you guys know that I've done a lot of silly voices on cartoons and Pokemon and Transformers and villains on movies. That's fun, but it goes by very fast because a lot of those jobs, they don't send me the scripts ahead of time. I show up and they're cold reads. And while that's really fun, and you have a director there, sometimes you have the writer, sometimes you just have the director, and they just say, okay, say the line 3 different ways, and you literally go line by line, and you give them 3 to 5 different reads, or you'll do 3 of your own, and then they'll give you an adjustment. But there's not much of my personal heart and soul in it. It's a lot of throwing spaghetti against the wall. I mean, it'll be the best 2 to 4 hours of my week. Don't get me wrong, but I don't feel like it's not something that stays in my memory as much as the people who watch it. That's the interesting thing about doing cartoons. I'm like, yeah, I'll just say yes, totally, I'll do that for you. Okay. And then I just kind of forget about it later. Whereas the stuff that I'm developing in these one-woman shows with Ron Abel, they're my heart and soul.
Yeah.
Thank you for asking.
You mean Pokemon isn't artistically fulfilling, Lianne?
Pokemon.
I've had some fun characters. My favorite is Alvin. Look up Alvin. Oh gosh, I should remember what episode he's in.
I mean, he's a scrappy guy with his backwards hat, and he wants to do a rematch with Ash.
He's fun. Anyway.
I love it.
Awesome.
Crazy stuff we do.
Is that you?
I think it is me. Okay. If you were to direct any show, what would it be and why?
You go, Renee.
I mean, I'm gonna go with Chorus Line.
Oh, I had a feeling you were
I
gonna say
know.
that.
It's just, I feel like I would have something to say. I feel like if you're gonna direct a show, you have to know the piece really well, and you have to feel like you have something to say through the piece. I was recently asked to direct and choreograph it, and I actually turned it down because I still feel like I want to be in it. Well, I can still Grombatma, so, but it only comes around the Bay Area once in a while, so I have to be careful with, how I'm kind of choosing my path, if I want to keep pushing that performer card or fully transition to the director choreographer. But I can do both. There's no reason I have to pick.
I had a feeling you were gonna say that.
I also, my wheelhouse lately in the Bay Area, because I own a children's theater company, any adult production that has kids in it, like Annie, Mary Poppins, I always kind of get tapped because people know that I work well with kids, and I do. I love working with kids. There's some directors, Lianne, I'm sure you remember, there's some directors who were like, will never work with children. It's a special skill.
It is.
And Lily and Keenan know it well. They toured a show. There's certain actors that work well with kids, and there's certain creatives and actors that do not.
Yep.
So
That's true.
Yeah.
So funny. Yeah. No. I am a kid, so that would never be a problem for me.
we'd work well together. We do.
Yes, I am a kid. Yeah. For me, it was funny. I saw that question. I was like, that is a really good question. And I don't have an answer. And I thought, it's so funny that you don't have an answer, because lots of times when I see shows, I do think of, what confused me from the direction? How would I have made this clear? Where was there a red herring from the direction that wasn't necessary? So I definitely think like a director a lot. And I do, and even though they are music-based, my shows are I've been told time and time again that my one-woman cabaret shows are very theatrical, and I do direct them myself. But I think what I would be drawn to do would be something that I did in college, right at the very end of college, is I love adapting stories or novels into stage, because when we're reading something, we are filling in an awful lot of blanks. And what is that to do? How can you do that on stage in a way that you can't do it in film? You can still allow blank spaces for people visually, not give them too much detail the way a film does, so that they are still bringing more colors, more elements, more of the surroundings to the piece than you were actually providing. A film, your memory of the book becomes the film, and you don't even mean it to. It's just the way you make visual memory. But I love when you see like Nicholas Nickleby on stage, and you swear you see all these things that you actually didn't, because there was room for the viewer's imagination along with what the director and the actor provided. So that's my way of saying it. I was really proud to do some short stories, a short story by Willa Cather, the very, very end, that I both adapted and then directed at San Francisco State University. And I've never quite done anything like that, but I was really proud of the way we used vague sets that, stairs and doorways that didn't lead anywhere, and narration into one scene starting and somebody turning to their left, and then the scene didn't even finish, turning to their right, because that's I don't know, playing with the turning the pages of a book on stage. Doesn't tell you what the play is, but I better read some more stories, because I loved doing that.
Well, you worked on Emma, right? I mean, that must have been so fulfilling.
Oh, yes, thank you.
Yeah,
thank you, Renee. For many years, I did the stage adaptation of Jane Austen's Emma, and it was thrilling too. And sometimes sometimes the scene didn't work, and Paul would say, "Oh, Lianne, I'm looking at this." The writer, it was his piece, but I had been such a part of various workshops and various productions in the Bay Area and at Cincinnati Playhouse and Repertory of St. Louis, that he would ask me, he goes, I think I got to go back to the book and look at that scene again. He's like, what stuck out to you that we missed in that scene? And so Yes, my
That's
book
cool.
is destroyed of Emma. It is truly destroyed because I went through it and dropped it in
Lots of
spilled things
notes
on
in the
it.
margins and
Oh, tape. Yes, so many notes in the margin. I was like, we're not being sacred with this. We're going to highlight this. We're going to dog ear the pages. Thank you. That was because I love that. You're right. Thank you, Renee. That was a dream for me to help bring that novel to life on stage.
yeah. Well, and that was sort of a
many
gem of the Bay Area because Paul started that here, right? At Theater Work? Am I remembering it correctly?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I love it when new works
Paul
come
Gordon
out of
was
here.
the writer and composer of Jane Austen's. I mean, it was a musical. And yeah.
See, I was very jealous. There was no 5, 6, 7, 8 in that show.
There was no dancing in that show.
I
No.
missed out on a lot of good stuff.
Oh, man. Yeah.
All right, I'm sorry.
No, we're babbling.
I'm really excited for this question. How do you navigate the transient nature of the arts? Like all the travel, different contracts, contract lengths.
Or I'll add to this, Leanne's partner
Lots
is
of
just
them.
gone right now.
Yeah. Yes, but you guys did an international tour as a family. Do talk about that. Yeah.
It was crazy. I remember when the audition, and Lily, your family probably had this, I think you guys had a similar story. The audition came through, and like we said, you get 1 in every 100 auditions. So my husband and I were like, we'll just audition. He won't get it. And then he got it. But, you know, it was a really awesome experience. I'm sure Lily's told you, Leanne, when you've spent time with her, but it was just one of those opportunities that you have to take, as crazy as it sounds. And the way our family did it was my husband and I, every 6 weeks, we switched out internationally.
Oh, you did! I love that.
And we like to say we like high-fived in the Shanghai airport. You know, we would just switch. We have the 2 little kids.
Yeah.
But in reality, we got grandma and grandpa involved, and so we would spend like 24 hours together at each 6 weeks. But we switched in and out. Keenan stayed the whole 6 months, and then because of our 2 little ones, we just switched. It was wild, but it was really fun.
Oh my God.
I actually had basically the exact same experience with the audition. I got it and I was like, I'm not really gonna work that hard on this. Like that's really bad. But I was like, I'm not gonna get it. Like I'm not going to China. What the heck? And then I got it and I was like, okay. And then we had to confirm some stuff, like if they actually wanted like my real height, because I had actually gotten an offer for Sound of Music the year prior, and then we were like, are you sure? Because I'm this height. And they were like, oh, yeah, no. And I was like, okay, cool. But yeah, and I kept telling people like, oh, I'm not probably going to do it. Like, it's like a lot. And there was a long process with contracts and everything. And then we got to the end of the process and we were like, I guess we're doing it. I guess I have to tell people.
Actually happening. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were lucky. I mean, we were with your lovely friend Travis. There were some, I know. I mean, the company said this to us, and I don't think they were full of it. I think the season 2 of the tour was a really lovely group of people. The parents all got along. The kids were great. The adult company was really great. So I think we got a good group. We kind of lucked out, so it made it a lot easier.
I agree.
Yes. Whew. For me though, it is. So the funny thing I will say is, yes, my fiance and I both are full-time actor, musicians, and it is hard. So for example, he proposed to me January 9th, 2023. Yes, it's almost 2 years. Since if you say, Lianne, when's the wedding? I'm going to say, we don't have a date. And you say, oh, come on. And it is very hard when neither one of us has any normalcy to our life. It is short contracts. And even if you get a Broadway contract, there's only about 2 that you know aren't going anywhere. Even that could close in 2 weeks or less. So it's all short contracts. And we have sometimes said, oh, I'm thinking about this. And then something happens. Or, for example, there was this date in the spring that we talked about. He's going straight to doing, Scrooge and A Christmas Carol and to doing a world premiere at Milwaukee Rep for 13 weeks. I don't want to marry that man after not seeing him for 19 weeks. It just feels weird. I don't want to plan it. I don't I don't know. I just, because it's when we have time apart, we are very independent people that life is better when we're together, but we also I have a great, I'm a busy bee and I have lots of friends and so does he. It's fine. But when we come back together, there's always like the,
Oh, right. Oh, it's you. Oh, you.
it's both wonderful and a little frictiony. And I don't want that to happen right before spring wedding. So we're not getting married in the spring. So it is interesting when neither person has any regularity as a household. We do manage it. And I will say what's wonderful is he comes from a family of actors all the way to his grandparents being professional vaudeville performers. We have posters of them in the room. They were a dance act, and it's really, and his parents, when they got married, their best men were Jerry Orbach and Ed Asner.
Oh my gosh!
Parents. So even though you don't know his parents' name, even though you don't know Luke's parents' names, those were their best friends. Just. Sometimes character actors, nobody knows their names, but they know Jerry Orbach's names. you know what I mean? Anyway, it's wonderful that he has this acceptance of, it is what it is. And just if we don't see each other for a few months doesn't mean that you aren't my person. You're my lobster. And I do think that him growing up and seeing it work it's actually really nice. I come from a family that loved the arts, but they didn't perform it. So his just ease of, we'll be fine, is nice. I don't think I'd be anxious about it, but any little anxiety I do have is taken away by him. I'm going to say that. He's a good buddy. And both times, Lily, both shows that I did in Maine, he was doing a show also the same time. I think he was only there ever for 2 days. I think maybe you got to see him for like 2 seconds.
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's kind of all like summer is kind of just like a blur because so much happened.
The teen theater, yes, the summer camp ended, but it's also hard. It is hard. What I will say for you guys though is you youngins, there is also reality of, money comes and goes when you are committing to doing it totally full time, and I don't have a teaching job, so it is. When everything I do is audition based, it can be hard. Sometimes I can go for a couple of years and it be okay. And right now, I'm having to do a lot of side hustles that I haven't done in about 10 years. And I have to remember that this is temporary and it's not a sign I'm failing. And I'm not gonna lie, I have some hard days. But in 3 months, I might forget that this month ever happened. But anyway. That's the, and it was fun though. I was doing a side hustle, being a barista at an event a couple weeks ago with a girl who for 7 years had been an alphabet on Broadway.
Wow.
And she's my age too. And she was, and I said something about, oh God, I thought I was out of doing this stuff. She goes, girl, you thought you were out of this stuff. I'm the longest running alphabet that was ever on Broadway. And I was like, okay, you're right. Just suddenly you go so many months without a gig, so many months. You're like, yeah. All right. Who wants a cappuccino? Anyway, I hate to admit it, but it is real. It is real.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anyway,
it's good for them to hear.
Yeah, it's real.
Real.
Anyway.
As they're lucky. Right now they both don't have to worry about paying rent. Yeah. They have parents, but it's good for them. I love surrounding Keenan with people who keep it real. So thank you.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I'm not saying don't do it because of that, but I'm saying. This is where I think I said earlier about taking care of what makes you feel good. Where is your comfort space? Because these days, I have to make sure that I feel good about who I am, not just where I'm performing. Because right now I don't.
You're not defined by your gig.
Yes, I mean yes, and like it wasn't that many weeks ago that I headlined at 54 Below. So some people go, well, yeah, you're doing all right. I'm like, well, yeah, but I have rent. So,
that's only what Instagram says.
Exactly. Yeah. Can't wear blue sequins every day, darling.
Okay, is this back to me? I think maybe.
Yeah. I think
okay. What do you want to see from the theater community in the future, or what do you want the community to embrace?
I really, at least we're feeling here in the Bay Area, I really want the audiences need to come back. The theater companies can't do what they want to do and pay people what their value is until the audiences come back. So I don't know what the solution is, but I'm hopeful that in the next, 5 to 10 years, we see a resurgence with attendance so that the financials can come back.
Yes.
That's my goal.
Yes.
Sorry, Debbie Downer here.
No, I've been hearing from my pals that are still in the Bay Area that attendance has changed drastically. I love original pieces. I always have. And in New York, what's happening is an awful lot of figuring out how to make a popular movie be on stage. And like I just said, when you already have a great visual memory of a film, a stage version of a film is 90% of the time going to fall short. But if you are watching a news story, or even like I said, I love adaptations from books, and I think we can go to love a book and love seeing how somebody else filled in their blanks, and I do know similarly, though, there were 2 original things that closed quite quickly just in the last couple of weeks. And I had a friend mention that he knows a lot of people in the arts that are saying they want more of this, but previews and the beginnings of a show that are really trying something new, we got to show up for. Because in New York, I think people are still saying they want it, but we also are like, oh, I totally will next month. Oh, I totally will. Oh, next week. I'm guilty of that as well. I do show up to live things all the time, but I forget that there is an honest to goodness urgency now after the pandemic to show up for new things in New York, at least in the early stages. And it sounds like in the Bay Area to show up at all. The New York early stages. I also know that it's really important for us to make sure that people feel loved in the coming year. I think there's a lot of finger pointing that's happening in our environment amongst people that are in charge of different things, saying, well, that's their fault, it's his fault. And I think theater can be a place where we can just love everyone and not point fingers. So I think it's important to I don't mean to be a cornball, but to have love in the theater.
No. And be an escape. Keenan's opening night of Seussical was the 2 days after the election, and everyone in that audience just needed 2 hours to just not think about it, and that's what Seussical did for us, and it was the best therapy.
I'm so glad.
Yeah.
The windmills of my mind for Dusty, my big night that I've been looking forward to for 7 months, was the day after the election, and I just hadn't thought about it.
Yeah.
And I went, this has just got to be like a big, warm hug. Yeah. And yes. And yes, some digressions and laughs, which I know Seussical had too, I'm sure. Plenty of. Yes.
Yeah. So sad.
We got to end on a higher note.
Is that it?
Well, yeah. I did want to say, I think in general too, like we're seeing so many, revivals. Like there's been Once Upon a Mattress and Into the Woods and now Gypsy, and I think that that's so cool. But that's just so much of what we're seeing right now, and in the media in general, like Moana 2, and then Wicked, and those things aren't bad, but I do also love seeing, new stuff.
Also Gladiator too.
And I like, and
blockbusters.
I like what you said too about like supporting that stuff, because a lot of the times, if I'm in New York and I'm seeing shows, I'm like, okay, well this is like, I know what I'm getting here, like I want to see it, like whatever, people have talked about it, but it's also so cool to experience something like brand new, and
I agree.
So hopefully that ended it on a little bit of a higher note.
Yeah, great.
Lianne, I can't wait till you come back to the Bay Area. I want to see your show.
Oh, thank you. I'm going to try my darndest. Yes, I could do it at the Nico, but I I don't know. I kind of like the idea of bringing it right to the East Bay, you know? So,
And
I
hopefully
kinda
I can
choose.
get
You're home.
Yes. And next time I know my show was a Wednesday at 9:30, Lily, when it was in New York, just whatever, 3 weeks ago. So,
hopefully I can get
although
down at some point. But yeah.
54 Below did ask for a reprise though too. So
Oh, good.
Okay.
I'll let you know if it comes back to New York again. I mean, when
Yeah.
it does. It will.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's great.
My back posture on this stool.
Yeah, your posture.
I
I
is
know. I need to
horrible.
be like.
Get you
I've
back
been
to
stretching.
ballet- get you
I've
back
been
to
like
ballet
sitting
class.
like this the entire time because this stood my
Oh,
chair.
it's so hard being Keenan. So hard.
Well, thank you both so much for establishing this podcast. Your fabulous questions. My goodness.
Lianne, it was super fun to see you, and it was fun that now the four of us have this commonality and connection.
Love
It's
it.
great. Small worlds.
Love it. Thank you. Thank you for
Love it.
reminding me about the time that Renee and I had together. Like, it was really special.
It
It was
was
really special. And here you are,
Reminisce.
like, running a children's theater company and you are continuing the power of mentorship and a positive space. Renee, that's amazing. And it doesn't surprise me at all that you are just needing to continue to share what was so special to you. Really.
Yeah, I'm grateful. It's very fulfilling. All right, our DoorDash arrived. We gotta go.
Okay.
I mean,
Well.
I'm going to go to Blue Note and see some jazz. That's what I'm doing.
Woo, that sounds
Yay.
fun.
Yeah, 10:30
Well, thank
show.
you
Here I go.
for talking with all of us. It's been so fun.
It has been fun. Thanks, Lily.
thank you.
Adore you all.
Bye, you guys.
Bye.
Bye.